Greetings again, Love Bay family. We are back. Good to have you all here for the Champions Table. We got a special show this evening. For where I am, at least, is this evening. But you could be anywhere in the world. But you are here, so we're thankful that you're here. Once again, we have intentional and real conversations with our hosts, and also we make sure that it is a safe space for our audience as well as our guests when they come in. And today we have a special guest, and today's episode is the bounce back, where we have a champion tell us about their journey of resilience. And our special guest is Mirthell Onyx. But I'll give you a quick bio. Dr. Mirthell Mitchell, aka Mirthell Onyx, the Chief Operations Officer of the Onyx Family Media Empire, writes, directs, and acts in many of the Onyx shows, vividly bringing the family story to life, depicting their journey from the struggle life to the Onyx life. As the co-host of the Onyx Life and Family the Onyx Family podcast, he seeks to inspire families as the co-host, around the world. Mirthell holds a doctorate in humanities, a master's of divinity, and a master's in marriage and family therapy. The Bachelor of Arts in theology as well, underscoring his deep commitment to faith and family with over 20 years experience as an ordained minister and marriage and family therapist. He brings a wealth of expertise to the family's value-based brand, 7X. I hope I said that right, inspiring millions globally. Under his operational leadership, the Onyx family has flourished, spreading their message of hope, resilience, and positivity to the diverse and wide-reaching audience. So as we say before we get started, every single time, men talk, women talk, but the truth can't lie, and the truth will set you free. Here on the Champions Table, we have our special guest, Mr. Mirthell Mitchell. Come on in, Mr. Mirthell Onyx.
Nigel, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Good to have you here, man. How you feeling, first and foremost, man?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you. We go to the audience. We go way back.
We go way back.
Way back.
Way back.
Probably even preteen years.
Yeah, preteen years, man. We literally grew up together, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to see. It's nice to see you have this platform to be able to make a difference and shine your light, and it's a privilege for me to be on your show. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, man. I'm honored to have you here, man, and to share your journey, your family's journey, and all that good stuff, man. It's an awesome experience, man. So we're gonna get right into it, man. Ask you some questions here.
Okay.
So our first question, man, is who is Mirthell Mitchell? I know who you are, but who is Mirthell Mitchell? What's your origin story and before the Onyx family?
Yeah. Right. So so like I said, I grew up in Toronto, Canada. And I grew up in the church, same denomination as Nigel, and our paths crossed because just Toronto is a tight city. The 416-905 is tight. Everybody knows each other. Everybody, meshes together, especially in our community. And so so that's where I grew up. In addition, I was a pastor's kid, and pastors' kids have a tendency to I don't know, be attention seekers. And just, you're trying to carve out your own path because your dad has all the spotlight. So you're trying to carve out your own path and trying to figure out your own values. And so during those years, I had a few years where, I was trying to figure out who I was. So but I don't define myself by those younger years. It just helps to shape you, keeps you humble. So yeah, I was a PK and grew up in the church.
PK life. Okay. All right. So my next question is this one is growing up the son of a pastor, which you mentioned, right? Did you always see yourself becoming a pastor?
It's interesting. I did. I always aspired. My dad was an inspiration to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, the place a father holds in a son's life. It can be a push pull type of situation. So on one sense, I looked up to my dad. He was someone that showed me how to love others, how to love a woman. So I watched him very intimately, showing my mom love and affection. And so I grew up learning how to be a man and how to love a woman and how to create a family. And so family, faith was major to me. And I believe that that was lent to me by my dad. He was a giver, and he used to just pour out himself for people and for families. And so the drawback to that was that I grew up seeing my dad serve high purpose. He had a high purpose life, but sometimes it made me feel as though I was not as important as I would love to have felt, because he poured so much into others. Sometimes it made me feel as though I should have had more access to him. But what that did is it was a humbling experience, and it's ironic, but instead of just resenting him, I wanted to be like him. And so I ended up almost being a carbon copy of him. He went down the path of marriage and family therapy as well. He went on the path of ministry. I went to the same seminary as he did. I got hired in the same conference. I became a minister, ordained minister. And so I kind of like followed that same path as my dad.
Let me ask you this, because you said something crucial. Is it something that because you didn't feel like you had his attention? Did you feel like you did the opposite with your family in making sure you were present and available for your kids?
Man, I would love to say that
Yeah.
I was more intentional in doing that.
Right.
But the interesting thing about father-son relationships, or even mother-daughter relationships, the sins of the fathers go visits the third and the fourth generation, and the challenges also visit. So I had to be intentional with my children, especially my son.
Right.
Like, I was so proud to have a son. I was so happy to have a son, and he's my last. And it was so great to see another version of myself. But I found the same internal struggles that he must have went through. I found myself going through some of those same internal struggles, and struggling to bond, because I had wished that I had a more natural bend and inclination towards just naturally bonding, because I was following a pattern. See, it was easy to follow the pattern of pastor because he did that very well. It was easy to follow the pattern of marriage because he did that very well, but it was not easy to follow the pattern of being a father. But there were some critical things that he left behind. So I began to rebel. And my rebellion is very light compared to most people's stories, but it was still rebellion nevertheless. In church, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, being the choir director to please my dad and to be that good guy and go to the Christian concerts. But then in the same night, I'd end up at the clubs, or in the same venue, I would be hanging around friends and they were selling drugs. I wasn't necessarily selling it, but I was in that crowd.
Right.
And just kind of like I said, a little bit of rebellion, a little bit of lashing back out, sort of maybe attention seeking, maybe just wanting attention. And what was critical for me, and I've shared this story before on other platforms, I shared at my dad's funeral. What was really critical for me was when I needed it the most, my dad was there for me. And I think he realized at a certain point in time that he had been ministering to everybody else, but he had not necessarily given me the kind of attention that I had particularly needed. So it all culminated at this particular point in time. I was not going to school. I was not paying attention. Wasn't on the path to graduation. Spending my days watching Rap City back in those days.
What?
Rap City came on at 3:00. And so you're skipping school, you're playing basketball, and you're just going with the flow. Just not really, following the path that your parents would like you to. And my friends lived on their own. So I would leave the house and I would go off on my own with them and spend, weeks, away. But when I would come back home, my parents came up with a strategy. How were we going to get Mirthell? How are we going to instill in him how we raised him, train up a child in the way they should go?
Yeah.
And so what they did was they decided to just love on me, just almost love bomb me, speak life into me, tell me
Mm.
things that I was not doing. Like you're going to be a tremendous person in this world. You're going to make an impact in this world that is phenomenal. And I'm just like, where are they getting this from? Because like they're cleaning up my room. They see my wrapping papers for my weed.
Right.
They see everything that I'm leaving there. They're like but they became very intentional. And one of the things my dad did, he wanted me to come back home because he felt that home was a safe place instead of being out there and they don't know what's going on. So
Right.
he'd give me a car. He gave me the only family car in order to lower me back home so that I would have to come back home because I had to bring the car to my dad. So one particular evening in Toronto, I was in a club with my friends and I was dropping them back home and I got into a major accident with the family car and the car was just a write-off. It was a write-off.
Wow.
And that night when I got back home, my dad, in the moment of the tension, understanding that I just told him that his car is a write-off, I don't even have it, it's sitting on the side of the road, I had to get a ride home. In that very moment, my dad said to me, "Is everybody okay?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, son, you must be tired and you're probably going to want to get some sleep, but the next time I'm going to get another car, and next time I'd like you to be more careful." I was like, "What?"
What?
I was like, "Next time."
West Indian parent? What?
I was like, exactly. I'm thinking like this is, my dad is Jamaican, and so I'm thinking like, why? No matter, like just getting this coming lacing me in the moment because of course your car is gone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But instead, my dad was poised. He was almost like the prodigal son, the father poised, understanding that the son could come back home, and when he comes back home, the parents need to understand this. There are moments that you can impact your child's life. So what did not impact my life as much was all the days that I felt that he wasn't there for me. But the moment that was poignant was when I did not deserve mercy, when I did not deserve favor. He gave me favor, he gave me mercy, he gave me love. And I grew up in the church, so I knew all the texts. Jesus loves me. I sang all those songs, but they were just songs. They were just text. They were just text in the Bible. They were just words. But as I looked at my father and the way that he treated me that night, I saw Jesus Christ in my dad. I felt the love. I finally understood while I was yet a sinner.
Yeah.
Christ died for me at that time. Like he gave me favor when I did not deserve it. I was not the choir director. I wasn't doing anything good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that changed my life. Me and my friends, we were getting ourselves into trouble, and the RCMP, that's the Canadian version of
the RCMP, boy.
Yeah. So they were investigating a bunch of a string of crimes that had to do with car theft, and right at that moment, that's when I transitioned to go to Oakwood, and my parents had already applied for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So when I said to them after that moment, that big moment with my dad, I said, I want to be a minister. I that's it. I want to give my life to the Lord and whatever. I was about 19 at the time. And I've never turned back. From the time I was 19, I've been serving the Lord. And the reason why is because of love. It's not shame. It's not guilt. It's not legalism. It's not law. It was love. Love transformed my life.
That's powerful, man. So love on your kids, folks. Love on your kids.
Absolutely.
Speak life into your kids. That will go a long, long way rather than, we're used to the lectures and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
Pour it into your kids that way. That's powerful. Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing that, man. So
Absolutely.
this section, I'm gonna call this section, Date with Destiny. Mirthell's Date with Destiny.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So tell us about how you met your wife, Rita. How did that happen?
So as I said, my classroom was the home.
Right.
I wasn't homeschooled. My parents invested in private education, and I did to do some public education as well. But true education is in the home. And so what I have done is, me and my wife that I'm about to share how we got to know each other, we decided that we were going to homeschool. And because it was so poignant, the lessons that I learned naturally, they weren't sitting in a chair facing forward, retaining verbal information.
Right.
True education is stimulus. It's you taste it, you feel it, you touch it, you experience it. The transformation of my life was an experience. Started with a car crash. Then it was inspired by mercy and love. So true education is a holistic experience.
Yeah.
And so when I went to Oakwood, from a young boy, I had been praying for a wife. So a lot of people would be praying for Tonka trucks. They'd be praying for G.I. Joes, Transformers. I was praying for a wife as a young boy. It was weird, but that's what it was. I saw my parents.
As a young boy, what age are we talking about here?
No, we're talking like really young. Like I'm talking about like I can remember myself praying for a wife, probably as young as like 6.
Wow.
6 or 7. Yeah. I was really inspired by what I saw. My parents used to just take off and go to a hotel. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, why you guys didn't even go to a hotel? Like you have your room upstairs. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how young I was. I was naive. I didn't know what was going on, but they were happy. They were passionate. They were happy, and they invested in each other. And all I knew is that I wanted to be happy like that.
Yeah, that's what's
and so as I grew up, of course, I came to understand what it was all about.
Right.
But I went to Oakwood with the intention to not just get an education, but I went there with the intention to find somebody. And I was in my junior year, second semester of my junior year, when I went to a friend's home. He was having a birthday party, and it was on January 17th. And a lot of the Canadians
date too.
Yeah. It's Milton's birthday, actually.
Okay, so it's Milton.
Yeah,
okay.
It was his birthday. And so we had we were just hanging out, whatever. And I actually was there to meet another girl. My good friend Charmaine Dunchie was supposed to hook me up with this girl that I was interested in. And so she was gonna come there and introduce me. But by the time I got to the event and I saw Rita sitting there on the couch, and Milton's house, there wasn't a lot of furniture. We were struggling, right?
We remember those struggles. Yeah.
She had the one couch. She had the seat on the couch. It was like a 3-seater. And I was like, who is that? I didn't know who she was. She was from California. She was just a new face. I'd known most of the people in the room, but I did not know her. And to be honest with you, no shade to the girl that I was there with. I mean, she was a fine looking individual, and I'm sure a wonderful person. But I forgot why I was there. and that was it. Like I just zoned in.
Yeah.
And we made a connection, and it was a powerful connection. And from that moment, to be honest with you, I met her January. This is how powerful it was. I met her January 17, 1998. She was 18. I was 22. I married her that same year.
What?
I married her December 20th. We had our wedding December 20th, 1998.
Wow.
So just 11 months later, we were married.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you knew that she was the one, and most definitely. You were like, yeah.
But you know what the interesting thing is that you never know.
Yeah.
You never really, really know. Like how I know now.
Right.
I truly believe. I was having a conversation with this guy that was that came over to our house. He was one of the people that we hire and contract with. And we're just having a conversation. And he was talking about, he hasn't been able to find that right one. And he's talking about like, he just, he's playing the field, he's going here, he's going there. He's in his 40s. Yeah. And I was like, I get that. I understand that. I understand the power of that attraction that you have whenever you meet a new person. And I said, God made it that way because God is an architect of sexuality and romance. He's an architect, and he made it so that there is a special bond that takes place in the first few days to months of a relationship so that it can facilitate in the bonding process to pull you together. But what we do is we take advantage of a lot of things that God meant for good. That's just to draw us together so that we can rough through the tough times when we're doing the oneness, when the oneness is taking place.
Right.
That oneness is a very, very, very painful experience. But so God makes it most pleasurable in the beginning and very easy and very natural.
Right.
So that you have this natural motivation to stick in that difficult time period of oneness, becoming one. But what we do is we now misinterpret why God made that. And we're like, man, I lost it. We lost it after maybe 6 months or a year. We lost it. She wasn't the right one. That's not the case.
Yeah.
There's a reason why God did that. But what I share with them is like me and Rita are going on 27 years. I said there are some things
Amazing.
I
Yeah.
would have never experienced until I stuck in for 27 years. Now I have a woman who I know the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And I would stand up with more emphasis, emphatically say yes,
Yeah.
because I truly know her and I actually love her for who she is. See, in the beginning, you're arguing, you're fighting, you're pushing, tugging
Right.
to survive. But once you get to those years and you get through it, now the love is authentic because now I actually love her. I don't love the dream of her. I don't love the
Mm,
promise that she gives. I mean, she
mm,
was a biology major. She was supposed to be a doctor. No, it's not the promise. I love this woman. I love everything about her. I
yeah.
love everything I had to go through that was challenging. The years that we call the struggle life.
Yeah.
I loved her through the struggle life, and now I'm living the Onyx life with her.
Right. So let me ask you this question: the conversation about homeschooling, you had that all before you guys got married, or was that?
During our time that we were dating, we had a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
I can't say that I had been that was something that we were solid on.
Okay.
But as our first daughter went to school and we saw the experience that she experienced, there were some challenges.
Yeah.
And we were just like, I think that we might want to homeschool her. And, a lot of the literature that we were exposed to, like Advent Home and, and the various things, messages to young people, the various materials that were for the home really started to impact us. And we're like, wait a second, I think it may benefit us to take our young family and do something a little bit different. And that's when we decided. So I would say we decided when my daughter went to kindergarten, her experience in kindergarten. And from then we homeschooled them for the rest of their life, for the rest of the time, right up until they graduated.
Okay. So it must have paid off because I read the resume and every one of your family members have a doctorate in humanities. So
They do.
I mean, y'all did something right. You did something
It's
definitely
interesting.
right.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
But so I was the one that was the primary teacher, not because Rita was not capable, but after we got married, she had to stop school to follow me back to Toronto as I became a pastor.
Right.
And then she was waiting for her opportunity to go back to school, and she was trying to figure out what could she do. I encouraged her to do nursing because all my families were nurses. She didn't really like it, but she knew she had to do something, and so she followed the path of nursing, and she basically did everything in nursing from the ground up, from a nurse's aide, cleaning up people's mess, all the way up to being a professor in the university.
Wow.
She's been the manager of a hospital. She went on to get her nurse practitioner degree. And she was even enrolled into getting a doctoral program as well. So, I mean, we have masters, we have doctoral programs. So very, very motivated family. We were grounded in education. But I was the one that was teaching them how to read from very, very young, teaching them math. And I felt like, Nigel, I felt like I was not competent in doing it. I was guessing myself. I'm like, man, are my children, what are they going to become? I mean, I personally failed math, grade 11 math 4 times. So I really knew this was not my strong point here.
Right.
And Rita was in school, so she had to be doing school. So during those critical young years, I think I could manage the ABCs. I think I could manage reading.
Right.
But once we got to the later years, that's when Rita's knowledge, she's such an intelligent woman. She is so gifted. That's when her knowledge went beyond the traditional education. And I always look at our educational system, and I have a lot of people that are teachers, and I respect teachers and how they invest in kids. However, the system as a whole, I think, has a lot of holes in it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And there are so many things that we could teach our kids, like life lessons, taxes. People are like, why am I not learning taxes? That's going to have more benefit than algebra. Like, you know what I mean? But Rita, she is the COO. So I am the COO. She's the CEO, and for a reason.
Right.
Because she's intelligent and she's gifted. Right. And she was able to take the homeschooling experience for our kids to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
teaching them real life skills, teaching them how, I mean, like right now they're into AI, they're into like this new generation, they're doing cutting edge stuff.
Right.
I'm still like sitting around like, like, okay, I'm like watching them and seeing how they're going. But in the earlier days, as I was doing it, I was a pastor. I would bring them to prayer meeting. And I remember they're the only kids in prayer meeting because everybody else is at home doing their schoolwork or whatever.
Right.
But Rita's at classes and sometimes she's at work. And so I had to bring them to my work. And so you have these young kids and you got to bribe them. So it's like, okay, I'm going to get pizza after prayer meeting, so we always go to Little Caesars to get the $5 pizza after prayer meeting. And they're looking forward to it. And then we used to have a Honda Odyssey that they just started having the TVs that pull down.
Okay.
I'd put in a SpongeBob, I'd put in like Ralph Thornberries, and and they're eating pizza and they're laughing and they're singing. But the irony of this all is that God heard my prayers. And so when you say, oh man, Mirthell, you guys must have did something good. To be honest with you, God has a path for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the irony.
Mm-hmm.
That same daughter that inspired us to homeschool because of some of the learning challenges that she had, that same child used to love to do cartoons, watch cartoons, want to get into production. She was very enamored with that life.
Yeah.
And many years later, as I'm praying and I'm bringing my children and I'm anointing them and I'm using the word anointing, but what I'm really doing is I'm just crying out to God, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
That's basically what I'm doing. And I'm asking him, God, please take control. Many years later, because God is able to look into the future. And this is why faith is so important. I was able to imagine having this ability to be able to have the superpower to look into the future, to see the challenges that you're facing and what is going to be the outcome of it. Well, I would be laughing. I wouldn't be crying, because many years later, when my daughter now is 18, 19, 20, she decides she's not going to go to university, but what she's going to do is she's going to be an entrepreneur, because that's what we were setting them up to be. She now is sitting around the writing table with the president of Nickelodeon, Albie Heck, the producer of this very SpongeBob movie that we used to watch in prayer meeting, the producer of Hey Arnold. We're sitting around the table with a woman named Doreen Spicer, who is the producer of The Proud Family.
Wow.
And guess what we're doing? My daughter is one of the head writers of our cartoons that right now is sitting on Disney Plus, on Hulu, on Peacock, on Amazon Prime.
That's amazing.
The head writer. My other daughter, she did all the music and owns all the rights to all of our cartoons. We have 2 seasons with over 24 episodes.
That's dope.
Of the Onyx Family cartoon.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's how God works. He understands. He makes it happen. Yeah. I was working with Matthew McConaughey and we were helping to promote his book. And one of the things I like about his book is he talks about many people approach life as in a bow and arrow with a target, like the target practice.
Right.
And they're always seeing themselves holding the arrow and pointing at the target, trying to hit the mark that they feel that if they hit that mark, then they have made it.
Right.
That what he describes us, it's more of a spiritual experience.
Right.
And for him, and I resonate with this, is that I am the target. My family is the target. We're not holding the bow. And we now, everyone is coming after us. Now that life is a whole lot different than the anxiety producing of, I gotta hit the target.
Yeah.
I'm here. You want me? Here I am. And everybody's shooting their target at us. So one day we could have Dr. Fauci call us to help him, through the pandemic for the United States. Literally call us on the phone, him and his team, to partner with us, because he sees how critical and how influential we are in the market. By the time Biden and Kamala calls us, their team calls us and they want us to rock the vote. We're not political, so we chose not to do it. Right. Then later on, they said, well, could you guys at least come to our inauguration? And so we were at the inauguration.
Wow.
There wasn't a lot of YouTubers there, but we were one that was there. So these are the kind of experiences we're not calling people. People are contacting us.
Yeah.
And so what I realize is that this path that we are on, it's a very spiritual path. God is the one that creates a dream for us, and then he reveals the dream to us.
Yeah.
And so that's the journey that me and my family has been on. It's been a very spiritual journey.
That's
And
amazing.
and the anxiety producing that we generally will have in life, it's just dissipates when you know that God is in control. And our job is just to be faithful.
Yeah. All right. So you touched on a lot there, man. You gave us some really good gems, man. I'm gonna rewind a little bit. So
Okay.
what is this called? The struggle life. You called it the struggle life. You've talked a little bit about it, but what was that? What was that like?
So
Yeah,
I'm actually writing a book right now.
yeah,
It's called From the Struggle Life to the Onyx Life.
yeah.
And the struggle life was when we were trying to find ourselves. It was during that time period where anxiety producing about parenting. Am I doing the right thing by homeschooling? I married this woman, but we have so many differences and so many challenges. It's before the 27 years. It's the first 5 years. Oh,
Yeah,
these were the struggle lives. And
yeah.
I was working in Toronto, but I was living in Buffalo because my wife had got half her nursing degree in a U.S. institution, and when she tried to transfer her credits, the Canadian institution wouldn't take it.
Oh
So I
man.
had to live on the border in Buffalo in order for her to finish her education, and that was very challenging. My
Yeah.
employees, I was really challenging them because they're like, "We want you in town," and I was just like, "But I can't do that because I promised to take care of my wife." And
Right.
part of that is her being able to get her education. And so there was a lot of tension in my life coming from different spots. And so the struggle life is we foreclosed on homes. We had cars repossessed. I was
Mm,
up to my neck in payday loans because I'm working Canadian dollars, which is 70 cents, 69, 68 cents on the American dollar. Then you
mm.
got the exchange rate. And I can't even rob Peter to pay Paul. It's just I can't keep up.
Right.
And so I was drowning financially, and life was very tough. I remember there was a time where when we lost our car and we didn't have a van anymore, but there's 6 of us, my mom gave me a matrix. And when she gave me a matrix, and she gave it to me because she didn't need it because my dad had just passed away. So she was driving his car. And so she gave me the extra car that she had. But a matrix is a small car,
Oh yeah.
very small car.
Yeah.
So every day, every weekend that I was going across to preach, to do church, I would be at my church, but I would have to travel across the Rainbow Bridge past Niagara Falls every single weekend to get to church.
Mm.
And I'd have to get out of the car, walk across the bridge, present my passport, and then jump back in the car on the other end because if the officers saw 6 people in a 5-seater car, they'd call the cops and we'd be in trouble.
Right.
And then we'd pray the rest of the way that, the OPP, Ontario Provincial
Pull you
Police,
over.
won't pull me over.
Oh my goodness.
So we had a lot of struggles. So that's the kind of struggles I'm talking about. I
Yeah.
remember one time we had no gas money, like we're struggling, and I was preaching and my wife was crying, and the church members probably thought I was ripping up the pulpit, like, oh man, Pastor Mitchell, he is preaching. But no, we didn't know how we were going to leave that parking lot. We didn't have any more gas, and we didn't have any gas money.
Right.
And my paycheck was coming in, but my bank account was overdrafted, and so I didn't have access to it. So we were just going to be stuck at church. So we sat and we just shook everybody's hand after church, and then we said a prayer, and we drove to the nearest bank to see if the manager would, release the funds. And they didn't want to because it was overdrafted, but they gave me $20. They gave me $20, and I was able to. So that's the struggle life. The struggle life is dollar store Christmases with Barbies where the head pops off easy. Like my kids understand how to move a home in less than 24 hours because we're being evicted. Like we know how to eat potatoes 15 different ways, fried, boiled. Like, so when you see the success, part of the success is my children remember, education is life experiences.
Yeah.
So they're super tight with one another. Why? Because they had to live together in the same room, sharing one bathroom. Like now they have their own room. They have their own house now. I mean, life is completely different. But you want to know, why is it that these kids are so disciplined? Why are they so focused? Why are they just so on it? Well, they're on it because they've lived a struggle life
Hmm.
that's served as education.
Right.
They're not rich kids with a gold spoon in their mouth.
Right.
They
Right.
work just as hard as me, or if not harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, and that's what we have to value. We have to value the good in our affliction. That's what David said in the Psalms, the good in my affliction.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because when we're afflicted, there's so many valuable lessons that can come out of affliction.
Yep. Yep. Definite lessons, man. So when was that moment? So I know, what is the moment that where everything changed in your opinion? Like, this was the moment where you knew everything changed.
Well,
Yeah.
well, it sometimes things get hard before they get better.
Yeah.
And when my wife let me know that she just cannot, she really is struggling with being a pastor's wife. I mean, she was a pastor's wife at 19. She was a
Hmm.
kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, she was going into a different culture than hers. She didn't understand the culture as much. And she never understood the pressures of first lady's responsibility. She did not know what it meant to be a young mother. She's 19 with her first kid,
Hmm.
her second kid by 20, like it's just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a kid experiencing adult situations.
Hmm.
And so when she came to me after she finished her nursing and everything, and we had some struggles where she had to go back to her parents' home with the kids because we could not afford, because we lost the place. I had to go back in my mom's house. So I'm living in my mom's basement. She went back to Dallas to live with her parents just so that we could figure out how we can come back together.
Wow.
It was tough. And then what ended up happening was, when she ended up coming back, and God came through for us in miraculous ways. The doctors that she was working with gave her an offer and said, listen, we are willing, we would love for you to start a medical company in Florida. And it was in the Naples area. It was in a very wealthy Sarasota um, area, very wealthy area,
Yeah.
where they were going to do a nurse practitioner model situation, home visitations. And what ended up happening was, she ended up taking that position and becoming an investor, and she had most of the shares because of the way that America at the time wanted the executive structure of a business, that they wanted to make sure that they were citizens. All the doctors that was in this company were Canadian. She was the only American. So she ended up being the senior officer
Oh
just for the
wow.
company to get off the feet. So she became the president of,
Wow.
of the company. So
Right.
with these offers that is being offered to her, she's like, I'm tired of struggling. I'm tired of struggling. I don't want to do this anymore. Will you come with me?
Yeah.
Will you support me in these next few years of our lives
Hmm.
so that we can carve out a new future? And I didn't want to, I wanted the success, but really didn't like to be a nurse. And so she would always like move from a job before she completed it because she just hated it. And I was like, hun, I'm going to leave a practice, my marriage and family practice. I'm going to leave my ministry.
Yeah.
And then you're going to turn to me and you're going to say, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I would have left. And I'm like, oh, what are we going to do then? I'm not going to leave. I'll be fine. I always wanted this, whatever the case may be. Well, true to life, I left in 2015, end of 2015. And by the time I ended up out there, she's telling me she doesn't want to do this anymore. And she didn't want to do it because it was hard. Like,
Right.
they expected her just to do everything. They just left all this load on her. So
Hmm.
I wasn't upset with her because I knew it. I knew that the sacrifice I was about to make. But God was calling me to take a leap of faith. The
Hmm.
easy road would have been the path that my dad took. I got hired probably because my dad was a pastor in that conference. My life was very easy. It was
Right.
ordered. My steps were ordered. And now I had to step out in faith and do something completely different. I could preach faith, but living faith was a completely different thing.
Right.
And so I was challenged. And that's when my life turned around. It was when I had nothing. I didn't even have a
Mm.
job anymore. Did not even have a job anymore. I had nothing. I was in the United States. I didn't even have a landed status. I did not have a green card.
Mm.
And that's when Rita came to me and says, listen, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this medical company anymore. It's way too hard. I don't have the kind of assistance that I thought I was going to get from my partners, but I'm not going to quit what I have right now until I can find something else. And it is in that moment that she researched YouTube. She was researching the algorithm. She was researching the trends, and she was doing all that stuff. And she came and she approached the kids, and she told them first because she was scared to tell me, because she was just like, I can't tell him.
Yeah.
He told me I was going to quit.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is I walked in while she was explaining to them, hey, let's go get superhero costumes and let's go to Party City and let's start our channel. Because the trend at the time was superheroes. And yeah, and after that, like, we blew up. I led my family. I had the privilege and the blessing of leading my family in a prayer. Praying and fasting. During that time period, we prayed and fasted. Even the youngest child prayed and fasted, because I understood we were possibly about to hit the worst times in our life, because now I did not have a job to kind of like bolster anything. If things didn't work out, we were homeless. We were going to be homeless.
Wow.
And within a month, it just blew up. While we were praying and fasting, and we were claiming a text that had to do with the widow with her 2 sons, and the Elisha said, you know, what do you have in your house? And she turned to him and she said, I have nothing. Wait, but I do have a bottle of oil. A lot of times we tell ourselves we don't have something, but we have exactly what God needs. He doesn't need much. He takes little and he makes much. He takes a little bit of dirt, mix it with his spit, and makes the blind see. I mean, he takes little things. He takes 4 loaves of bread and fishes, and he multiplies it and feeds 2,000. So God doesn't need much. So we don't need to come and approach our life with a lack mentality. We have to understand whatever he placed inside of you. When we're asked, what do you have? Oh, God gave me some oil. Oh, good. Well, guess what? Since you have that kind of faith, like a mustard seed, you're going to become an oil giant. And that's exactly what she became. She became the first woman oil giant in her community, because now she has umpteen amounts of oil. She can bring down the price because she got it for free.
Yeah.
It's the best quality oil.
Right.
Nobody has ever found oil like that. Where do you get to sell oil to your low income neighborhood? You got the best oil, giving it for rock low prices, but making serious profit because you got it for free.
Yeah.
I hooked you up.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to us. You know, we probably didn't have much, but God was ready to do something big. And so that very first month that we started, I haven't really seen that happen to too many people. And I know it's part of it's because my wife is just truly like, my wife is truly intelligent, but there was a God factor in all of this. And to be honest with you, that first month we made, I think, 27,000 or 26,000. Never had
first
that
month.
much.
Wow.
First month. Hit our account. Next month, 125,000. Next month, 225,000. Next month, 275,000. Bro, God was blowing our minds. We have never been in a situation. So that's how we went from the struggle life to the Onyx life. It's not about the money. It's about the miracle of God in your life. He's got miracles in store for you. And it wasn't us. It was him. And that's just how things have been. You know, my children chose to not go to Oakwood. They chose to go to instead Hollywood. That's where we ended up, you know, doing our own cartoon and having all of our stuff blow up on the internet.
Right.
You know, and then, you know, and I was thinking, man, I really wish that they would go to Oakwood because they could meet a really good man, that they could get married like how me and Rita got married, and they could also get their education. And it was just like, no.
They're locked in.
They locked in. Next thing you know, a university is calling us and they're saying to us, there was a gentleman, the mother of his daughter was murdered. And his daughter was using our channel to like kind of like overcome it. She was living vicariously through our family and just laughing. And he was just amazed. He's like, she just lost her mother, but she's invested in this family, and it's the perfect distraction for her at this point in time. And that's how we have been. We've gotten calls from people where all sorts of tragedies were happening, and we have been sort of like the Cosby family. See, the Cosby family
Yeah.
helped us to dream. It was like,
Right.
you can be black and have a doctor and a lawyer, but they
Right.
were actors.
Right.
And the challenge about actors is that you act, but you're not the real deal. It's
Right.
just a show.
Right.
But we're the real deal. We're the family. We actually are a family.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about YouTube. It's like you can present yourself. And so we became one of African Americans' top families on YouTube for generations now. So
Wow.
kids literally see us and
Amazing.
they're like, you're our childhood. You know, you made me laugh. You made me cry. You were there through a divorce. You were there in the hardest times. And so this gentleman, he had connections with a few universities. He presented our story, showed how we have been there for the country, for the culture, and just all the things that we have done. They took all of our experiences and they gave us life credits for it and presented us with a doctoral degree. Every
amazing.
single one of us.
That's
My
amazing.
children ended up getting doctoral degrees
Wow.
for the life work
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have been doing.
That's amazing.
It's just
That's
God
amazing.
is really good. And then the whole front, my daughter ended up meeting a gamer.
Yeah.
This gamer, he shot to the top. You know, during the time that she had met him,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, we formed a really great relationship. He comes every weekend to church with us. My other daughter just met another guy, beautiful Christian guy. And so it's sort of like all my dreams, I thought it had to be this way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
was proving to me, no, it didn't. I have men reserved for your daughters. I have a woman reserved for your son. I got an education reserved for them. I got a great life reserved for them. And it's just, I can truly just sit back and be loved on by God.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing, bro. That story, wow. That's an amazing experience, man. And you're getting love from all over right now. You got some love from
Nice.
Good Show, Sydney, Australia. You got somebody from Toronto tapping in. You got some folks from London tapping in,
All
saying,
right, London.
Mirthell, you are the man. God bless you and the Onyx family from London, UK.
All praise and glory. All praise and glory to God.
That's awesome, man.
Praise
That's
the Lord.
awesome, man. So you already told us about, you know, some of the Onyx life experiences, man, which is pretty cool, man. So what's coming next is the question. So what have you done so far? So far you have the podcast.
Yeah, we have our podcast that's
Right.
been going on.
Yeah.
We have our show,
Right.
which is our kids show, Kids and Family. Our
Right.
demographic is pretty much between 5 to we tap out around 11 or 12 because
Yeah.
you know they're now ready for more.
Yeah.
And then 3 of my children are gamers,
Yeah.
and so they fill that slot of the next generation.
Okay.
You know, as they don't want the jokes anymore and the silly skits.
Right.
Now they're gamers. In fact, Shonix, which is my daughter Sinead, she has a concert coming up in Atlanta. She sold out in one day.
She has a concert coming up. So she's an artist.
She is an artist. Yeah, she's
That
an
is
artist.
amazing,
And,
man.
She sold out in one day. And
So
she's doing
is her
amazing.
album out or album?
Her album is out. It's
Oh,
called
dope.
Don't Read My Diary.
Mm.
So it's a combination of like songs. She's a singer, but then she also does some hip hop as well. So
That's dope.
yeah, and so it's like, you know, she's so right now that's our you know, we're really leaning into that. My daughter is starting her gaming brand. I'm an author, so I just dropped 2 books, children books.
Yeah.
I just dropped 2 children books last week.
Yeah.
One of them it's an Onyx adventure series. One of them was basically the lore to a storyline where my kids end up having interest in mannequins. They were kids, and in their fantasy life, the mannequins came to life or whatever. So the audience and the fans know these mannequins, Prince Charming and Sarah. Sarah like Shiloh and Prince Charming like Shasha. And so I tell the lore of how they met when they went school shopping one time. So it's called Mannequin Mania.
Cool.
That was released last week, and the week before that, there was a Halloween movie that called Halloween Shine Your Light. And so a lot of us Christians try to stay away from Halloween, but our family that's one of the biggest opportunities for us to shine our light. So when I was growing up, my dad taught me, and And I love my upbringing, so I'm not
Yeah.
putting down my upbringing at all. It made me who I am. But he just parented in a different way. He was like,
Right.
turn off the lights.
Turn off the lights.
Turn off the
Turn
lights.
off the lights.
All right, turn off the lights. Turn it
ring
off.
the doorbell. Don't go to the door.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But the way the Spirit fell on me, I felt the responsibility to turn on the lights.
Right.
I cannot see any reason why we should never be turning on our lights.
Why are we hiding?
We should always be letting our light shine.
Right.
And when we look at the biblical example, God empowers us and he says, we must storm the gates of hell. A lot of people misinterpret that text, but it's talking about us going towards the gates of hell and it will not prevail against us. That means that we ought to be aggressively going towards Hollywood, aggressively going towards these spaces that are occupied by the world. And we need to not attack, but I made up a word called attract. We need to attract. So it takes the word attack, but attract with the love of Christ. And if we radically love others, just like how my parents loved me, I truly believe that people change when they experience the love of God radically.
Yeah.
Not shaming them, not ostracizing them, not reminding them about the 10 commandments that condemns them, but remind them of the Savior that came to save them. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's the gospel in a nutshell. And so we radically believe in loving others into the kingdom. And so on Halloween, we give out candy and we pack a message, a power-packed message about the death of Jesus Christ and how we don't have to worry about death anymore. We don't have to worry about ghosts and goblins and death because victory came Sunday morning when he rose from the dead and he conquered death. He conquered darkness. And so we don't play with Halloween. Like we go hard in our witnessing. Sometimes we'll go soft and we'll kind of like, pet things. But if I'm gonna go to Halloween, I'm not gonna play with that holiday. I'm gonna come hard and I'm gonna give the gospel unadulterated so that people can understand who we are.
Who
we are. And so that's kind of what we did. So that book, it's talking about the importance of shining your light on Halloween.
Nice. And that's already out. That's out now.
That is out. That's out. That's on Amazon. That's already out. And then, of course, I told you about the book that I'm working on, which is called From the Struggle Life to the Onyx Life, which basically chronicles our entire story of our family.
Yeah. That needs to be a movie, man. I hope we don't stop there, man. That needs to be a movie. People need to see that, That sounds good, man. It really sounds good.
So that's what's happening. We're dabbling in some AI right now, which is going to be some tremendous things. Oh, there's some tremendous opportunities with AI. And just here to support others and create forums where people can be able to kind of do some things like we are doing and change their life's family. I think that making money is very important. And so we want to support other individuals so that they can change their family situation.
Yeah. And you've supported. I know you've supported people in even learning about how to get on YouTube and so forth.
Right.
What type of advice would you give to a family or people that really want to do that lane, go down that lane?
It's interesting. I never stopped trying to help individuals. Here's a challenge. I remember when we started creating courses and we would sell the courses and then we stopped selling it. We started to just give it for free. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because one of the really tough things about YouTube and about social media is that the algorithm keeps on changing. And by the time you create a course that would have really truly helped the person, they've already changed the algorithm and now they have to do something else. And so the best thing for people to gain success is learning how to understand algorithms and learning how to get towards it, to research. And so I kind of lend myself in that kind of general way. There's some tips that I have. Let me just look here for 1 second.
And Rita was the one who was looking at this in the early days, And
because she looked at it in the early days, the wonderful thing about it is that we are now grandfathered into a lot of things we don't have to struggle with.
Right.
Because we already have been grandfathered in. So here are some tips. I'll just give you a few general tips that any business. So number one, I say,
hold on, audience, you get your pen out. Get your pen and your paper out now, okay? This is your opportunity to get some gems. Everything else was gems. This is gems too. So write it down. Pull out your phone, type this out. Okay.
All right. So and what I'm gonna do, I
Mhm.
don't know if you can put this in, but I'm gonna send it to you directly.
Okay.
And
All right.
so what you will be able to do is you'll be able to put it in. But I'm just gonna go through it quickly. Here are 10
Yeah.
important tips towards social media success for any business. Build a brand
Mm-hmm.
because it is long-term and secure money. Anything else is a temporary and inconsistency. So the
Mm.
reason why I say that is that remember when we first began, we started off with superhero costumes because that was the trend. We made a tremendous amount of money. Remember, we were making like hundreds of $1,000s per month.
Yeah.
But a lot of money is just a high-paying job, and we don't really want a job. True wealth is to be able to have freedom. And while money can give you freedom, at the end of the day, you can be fired. And then what happens next?
Right.
When you build a brand, so when we transition from superhero team, that's what we were doing before,
Mhm.
where we were very financially successful. But when we transitioned to Onyx and we created a brand. My wife had the presence of mind to be able to trademark that, to be able to get license and all that kind of stuff, which surprised us because we grew up listening to Onyx, the rap group.
Right.
So
Right.
we thought for sure they have it already.
Right.
Didn't do their due diligence.
Wow.
So we ended up getting Onyx. Like
Wow.
we own it within that branding of we own Onyx Family. And so nobody can just grab Onyx. They would have to license partner, we would have to license it over to them. So
Mm.
we found ourselves in a situation with Disney where Disney tried to do this brand called Onyx Collective with the Roots and with Tracy Ellis Ross, and they were doing a lot of the same things that we were doing. We had a show at the time called Onyx Family Dinner.
Yeah.
It was somewhat like the Red Table Talk.
I think I've seen that. I actually watched it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we were doing a lot of the same content. So as Tracy Ellis Ross is doing stuff about here, we were doing stuff about here. And it's just like, and we got the girl that, that got kicked out of her school for putting in braids or whatever the case may be. So we're doing a lot of the same content. So we had our lawyers contact Disney and put them a cease and desist saying you cannot use that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you cannot brand that because it is too closely connected to Onyx Family. Onyx Collective is too closely. So I mean, it felt pretty bad because we like the Roots. We like all the people that were working in that company, but unfortunately,
It's business.
business is business. You know what I'm saying? So so yeah, you got to have good business sense. So the first step is to make sure that you brand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we moved away from using someone else's brand, which was Marvel, DC, getting into costumes that were somebody else's brand. And we ended up becoming the Onyx Family. And now that we're the Onyx Family, now we are evergreen. Like we sit in the psyche of the culture.
Right.
There are kids that grew up on us like the Cosby Show.
Right.
And
Right.
that's it.
Right.
That's our brand. So try to create a brand as opposed to just using YouTube to just get, a great AdSense or whatever the
Right.
case may be.
Right.
So that's the first one. I got 10
You got
more, but
tons.
we can't do
Yeah.
that. So I'm gonna give it to you and you
Yeah.
can post it on your site.
All right. We appreciate that, man. Yeah. This, you know what? It's for me, it hits home because I was around for some of the, the times where, you were my pastor at a time, you know what I mean? So it's
Yes,
like
yeah.
to see this transition,
And I was all in with ministry. I was
Oh
all
yeah,
in.
for sure.
Man, I cried in the president's office.
Yeah.
I cried in the president's office. I did not want to leave. And he was like, "You'll be all right."
Yeah.
Said, "You'll be all right."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't know I was gonna be all right, but you can see me. I'm here today.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those who don't know, where can people find you, your family, and so forth? You know what I mean?
So a lot of the things, if you want us to speak,
Yeah.
if you want to see what books we have out and the releases that we have out, if you want to see the brand deals that we've done and you want to create brand deals, all sorts of things, go to www.onyxfamily.com.
Right.
And on that site, you will be able to see everything that's going on with our family.
That's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
and then of course all the social medias, the TikToks and the Instagrams and the YouTube, Onyx Family, Onyx Kids,
Yeah.
Onyx,
there.
Onyx Life, all of that. Yeah. So we have, over 8 million subscribers and we have over 5 billion views, which is just
Amazing.
incredible. When I stop and think, as I was pastoring, when I was your pastor, you were like the last church that I pastored.
Yeah.
It was with you. And what would we have on any given weekend? We could have a few hundred,
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
And I went from a few hundred as my audience to over 5 billion worldwide. So
Yeah.
when God is doing something and you're feeling as though, Lord, why are you punishing me? Oh,
Yeah.
what is my life? I'm 40 years old and I'm leaving the only education I know. God is like, son, you don't even
Big.
understand where I'm
Yeah,
bringing you.
I got amazing for you.
You don't even
Oh,
understand.
that's what's up. All right, man. Thank you for your time, brother. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you, Mr. Mirthell Onyx, in the building today. And thank you, Love Bay, and blessings to everybody who's watching.
All right.
Peace.
Wow, that was tight. That's like